Hi, this is Rick Horton with my special education interviews, module 3 for EDL 853. Who did I interview? Um, finding people for me to interview is a little more difficult since, again, changing buildings, changing school districts next year. Not everybody was as willing to work with me. Obviously, the people that I'm really close to, did were tougher to get a hold of and weren't really willing to drop the ball for just anything. So I was able to find three. I interviewed Annie Browning, who is a special education teacher at Mission Valley. She's got 7 years experience as a SPED teacher and 10 years teaching experience. Charlie Charlie Chesmore, who's a good friend of mine. He's the seventh grade principal at Washington Rural Middle School. He's been there for 2 years doing that. Before that, he spent 8 years as the Mission Valley Junior and Senior High School main principal. And before that, he was a science teacher at Mission Valley High School. Karina Romine, she was a para that worked at Mission Valley for the last 15 years. She worked directly under me for 3 years. She works primarily in the junior high. Now to get to the questions and the stuff that we asked and talked about. What do they find the most challenging with their role in regards to special education and why? When I was talking to Annie, she just the first thing she said was just the paperwork. And what she meant by that was you want, as a special ed teacher, you want to spend so much more time with the kids, so much more time working with them and teaching them and doing stuff with them. But then reality comes where we're doing so much testing and so much trying to get them evaluations for their benchmarks to see if they're making progress towards their goals, the IEPs. At Mission Valley, we have a caseload of about 25 kids each. So it's difficult when you have that much paperwork to spend as much time as you'd like to with the kids. Scheduling, and that's just basically keeping the paras where they need to be and keeping everybody and scheduling your time with the other things that we have to work around. She said training the paras, and basically on this is when we get a new para, they have absolute no formal training. So it's a tough situation. We have to go through everything with them. Data collection, again, that's a lot with the making progress towards their benchmarks and goals. Supervising paras, typically we don't have a whole lot of problem, but it's still, you always got to make sure they're in the right place and doing the right thing. The different needs of every student. This is one of those things we talk about, differentiated instruction and everything. It can be really hard when we might have 8-9 kids for a pull-out section, and they're all at different levels. And the evidence of growth of students, just all the documentation that you have to do to show the growth. When I talked to Mr. Chesmore, the administrator, about the most challenging part, he just said the actual IEP meetings, because he spent so much of his day dealing with discipline and other issues that go around to the building, and then just where you have to drop everything and make it to an IEP meeting or make it somewhere. Knowing the SPED regulations and laws, he says that's just one of the areas that he doesn't have a whole lot of expertise in. I wish he had more, but he said it's challenging to keep up with everything. Dealing with a SPED student discipline. Some of your SPED students you can't discipline the same way. The more you get on them, the harder you're on with them. He says, they don't always react the same way a normal student was. So you just have to get to know them, know what the disability is, and how you can react with them. Building a relationship with the SPED students, real similar. Some of the kids, especially if they're on the spectrum, they just act differently in the hallways and stuff. It's tough to get to know them in the short little interactions that you have with them, and how to treat, how to treat kids with the different disabilities fairly. And that kind of goes back to the discipline too, where just, what's right, what's wrong, and what's fair to one student's not always fair to another student. When I talked to the para, she was awesome to talk to because she's so outspoken and so over the top, and you just don't know. But she's truthful. She's bluntly honest, and that's what made this more fun. Was the thing that she finds challenging is when students don't do their homework. When she sits there and helps them, and they don't do anything at home. Teachers not helping students who do not care. Or teacher's not helping. When she's trying to do something, or she's trying to make modifications or help out with an assignment, the teacher refuses, where the teacher just won't work with her. Students who don't care. Sometimes just have that student in special education just doesn't care, doesn't want to do anything. Students who aren't prepared. Sometimes our students just come to class and they aren't ready for anything. I know that's all students, but that's just a big pet peeve of hers. And students' attitudes towards her. not very often, but every once in a while you have a student, and typically she's talking here about like a regular education student who just shows her no respect at all. What is the most rewarding part of the job when dealing with special education students, parents, and other teachers? Annie, what she said, is just seeing the students succeed, and it gets her so excited. Just, it makes her feel good. Seeing students grow in other ways, emotionally, behaviorally, socially, organizationally, and building relationships with the parents. We get pretty close with these parents just because it's, we sense a lot of messages home and have to make a lot of phone calls. What the administrator said, seeing the SPED student succeed after school. So, once the students graduate and comes back and sees that they're, doing a great thing and they're doing good things with their lives, it really gets him excited. Seeing the SPED students make significant progress to, where they can actually exit special services. And seeing parents after their child has made gains, when those parents are super proud. They're seeing their kids struggle for so long and now they're seeing them succeed. It's an awesome thing just to see their faces. And my para, she said seeing the students learn a new skill. She's awesome. If the kids have some downtime, she may teach them how to quilt or sew. And I mean, she teaches a lot of fun things like that with them and lets them work. The excitement when they do well on a test. Again, Miss Romine, she buys boxes of candy, and if one of our students gets an A on a test, she always gives them some candy, and just to see the excitement, how they run to the room and want that candy. And seeing students after they graduate, we have so many students in my 3 years at Mission Valley that came back to see Miss Romine. It's awesome for her. What advice do they have on supervision of special education staff? Again, the teacher, just to be fair, don't be a pushover. You have to be firm and strong with everybody. Be willing to work with everybody. Be upfront and honest. It's so much easier if you're just upfront and honest and tell people what your expectations are. Be strict and set expectations. She's just big on everyone needs to know what's expected of them. The administrator, he just said to be honest. Don't lie. It's just easier. If you lie to somebody, you're going to get caught up in it, and it's a big mess you have to deal with later. Remember that you have the final say. The SPED teacher, we have the final say in a lot of stuff because we're the experts in the field. And to set expectations, again, both of these guys said that. And again, they were at the same school together for a while. They're both just believers on just having expectations for everybody and letting everybody know what the expectations are. And, the parish, she said to be honest with everyone. Keep regular ed and the special education teacher informed. Just, keep an open line of communication where everybody's talking. And to be fair, Miss Romine's, it really hurts her when people aren't fair with each other, when kids aren't fair with each other, when adults aren't fair to kids, when adults aren't fair to adults. And she would just rather you be upfront, honest, tell her what you expect, tell her what you think's going on. And her and I had a great working relationship because of that. How do they work effectively with parents of special needs students? Again, Annie, the special education teacher, she just said to keep parents informed. Report good news. When the kid does something good, when the kid's making a lot of progress, give the parent a call, give them an email, something. A lot of times special education parents, all they ever hear is the bad news. So they don't have a good relationship with the school. We got to have some good news going home to these parents too. And just progress reports for the goals and the benchmarks. And, we're required to send those out. But just, to be sure we're having that communication with them and to be accessible to parents. A lot of times parents of special needs students they don't feel like their kid, they're always nervous sending their kid to school. So this way, if we're accessible to them, it makes them feel better. The administrator kind of hit the same point, just to make the parents feel comfortable, make them feel like that we're doing the best we can do for their student. And to make the parents feel like the IEP was a win for them. That's the goal for any IEP, is kind of making a win-win situation where it's the best situation for the kid, it's the best situation for the school. And Ms. Romine just said mostly by word of mouth and the parents. And, she wants the kids to go home and tell the parents, that she's doing a great job. And, they're going to hear stories about her being hard on a kid or very strict to the kid. But they're also going home and telling the stories about how great she is and how, the great things that she does for them. And, when she sees parents in a community, that's just, the big only real times that she has a lot of access to the parents. How do they work with regular ed teachers with students with special needs? Again, the special education teacher is going to provide a summary of the IEP before school. Can we just call them snapshots so they get an idea of what's going on? help with the accommodations if the teacher doesn't know how to do it, help with the modifications, and help if the teacher has questions. That's a big thing here was, a lot of times the teachers aren't comfortable on modifying or adapting tests or worksheets, and that's one of those things that we can help them with until they are more comfortable with it, or we can continuously do for them. The administrator, has to meet with as a part of the IEP team, direct the teachers to the special education teacher. If the teacher goes and wants to complain to him, he says typically what he does is just sends them back to the special education teacher and has them work it out. And at Mission Valley, we had what's called the CSI program, and that's basically if a regular ed student is starting to struggle, or even a special education student, we talk about them as CSI, and basically it's creative solutions and interventions where we try to find ways to help the kids out. Ms. Romine said just to help the students take notes. That she designs graphic organizers for the students. She helps modify the assignments and student redirection. We don't necessarily do, sit right directly next to the student, but she's in the room. And if she needs to move and sit by him or help a student get back on task, again, that's just one of the ways that she helps in the regular ed classroom. What advice do they have for first year admin? The special education teacher just says use the special education teacher as a resource. We're the experts in the field. Obviously, a lot of them don't know so much. Just come to us and ask. Try to understand the special education student. A lot of times, first year administrators are hard on SPED students because they haven't had to deal with some of the issues, especially when you have kids that are on the spectrum. And be prepared for complaints from teachers on the modifications. Every teacher thinks their assignments are perfect, and everybody should be able to get them. The administrator, just keep an open mind. Understand there's going to be a lot of things happen. Use your peers as a resource. If you don't know something, don't be afraid to find somebody and ask them. Read journals, keep yourself updated, be accessible to everyone, teachers, students. Be in the hallways and build relationships. That's just one of his things. He's a big believer, and he's always in the hallways, always trying to talk to kids. And that way, when he does have an issue, it's not as big a deal. Remember, pairs are important. Be seen. She wants people out in the hall. And again, the administrator out in the hallway where she can see him. Be fair to the students. Act like you care about everyone. And there, what she was talking about, we've had a principal or principals at Mission Valley that honestly didn't even know her name. Didn't know she worked in the building. We had one ask her twice why she didn't check in at the office, and she's been employed there for longer than anybody. And it's just administrators have to remember pairs are a very important part of the school system. And she just didn't feel like that. And be approachable. If you're an administrator, let people be welcoming. Let people come talk to you. And she said that's a big deal to her. The characteristics they seek in aspiring administrators in regard to SPED. Be knowledgeable of SPED laws. Come into the resource room. A lot of times people are scared to come in there. You're not interrupting what we're doing. We want people to see what we're doing there too. We want teachers or administrators to see the gains that our kids can make. Be willing to work with SPED, be willing to come to the IEP meetings and be willing to help us out when we need it. The administrator, he just said to be knowledgeable, try to improve yourself, read journals, and just try to know as much as you can. And understand that you're not the SPED expert. He said that's a big deal. Seek help from the SPED teacher and continue to go to workshops and journals. Just keep educating yourself. And Ms. Romine, talk to the paras. Know our names. Again, that's something I touched on earlier, where she just felt that we've had some administrators that didn't even know her. Value paras, understand they're important, and respect what paras do. I think anybody that's worked with special education knows that they're our lifeline and what they can and can't do. You need to respect them and help them out when you can. Reflection. A lot of the answers are really similar between the three. Karina Romine, my para, obviously feels that she's not respected by some administrators, and I think that's a big deal. Everyone in the building needs to feel comfortable. I think that all three had high expectations for students. Everyone wants the administrator to be firm but fair. I think a lot of people like discipline. They want people to help out there, but they also want everybody to be fair. The administrators and paras, they need more training in special education, and everybody needs to communicate. Those are just some of the topics that just kept coming up and up and up, and I agree with all of them. Projection. My future as an administrator and responsibilities regarding special education, administration, and leadership. Pretty much for me, I'm in a place where I'm pretty happy right now. My kids go to Silver Lake. It's actually where I'm from. It's where my wife and I have lived for the last 3 years. So for me as an administrator, I'm going to keep teaching special education for a couple of years. If some administrative opportunities open up in this district, I'll look to pursue them. But again, special education really is where my passion is right now. Hey, thank you for watching the video, guys.